Hi everybody, welcome back. Glad you could tune in again. So in the last few weeks, a number of folks have indicated that they would appreciate some input, teaching, guidance on the implications of the recent Supreme Court ruling, Bostock versus Clayton County. I'm sure you've read about this in the news, even if you don't recognise that formal title of the ruling. This is the one delivered in just a few weeks ago, which has some significant implications for cases of alleged discrimination in employment contexts on the grounds of sexual orientation and gender identity. If you've read anything about this, you will know actually it has some fairly significant implications way beyond just that employment context, and that's part of what makes this a really complex issue. So I'm hopeful, Lord willing, that it will be possible to find a way to engage with some of those issues. I hope it will be helpful. But before we get into any of the complexity of that, it really is necessary for us to take a step back and just think for a second, hold on, what are the basic theological and biblical parameters at work here? And in one sense, they are really quite simple, and they're the sort of thing which are appropriate for a devotion like this. And I hope you'll find it instructive just to recall them again. And it really just concerns what it is to be male and what it is to be female. What is it to be man and woman in God's world? This is established in the first instance in creation. God made man in his image, Genesis 1:27. Male and female, he created them. That is to say, maleness and femaleness are given by God. They're not, in the first instance, chosen by us. What we are, who we are, is who we're created to be. Now, clearly, there are a very small number of instances in which some kind of genetic abnormality means that the normal way in which femaleness and maleness would be expressed biologically isn't present. We're not now talking about those situations. In the absence of those kinds of genetic abnormalities, it's perfectly true and has always been recognized to be perfectly true until really very recently that we are what God has made us to be. And in one sense, this is quite humbling. It means that we don't get to choose something which is really significant about our identity, who we are. And in an age when we're so used to our choice, our desires, our will being determinative in every aspect of our lives, this can be a shock even for Christians. Christians are among the first people very often, as we've noted in one or two previous devotions, to cry freedom, to insist on our right to express ourselves and to be who we want to be. We tend to exalt the will as a determinative factor in our lives. And one of the things that's really important for us to remember as Christians is that we don't get to do that to an arbitrary degree. There are other wills around to which we must submit. We've been thinking about that on Wednesday evenings in the Bible studies. The 1 Peter 2 talks about submission to all kinds of authorities, and of course there are instances when that raises questions about how far should that submission go, but there are instances where we must submit to other wills. But beyond merely submitting to other wills, we must submit to the Creator's design. We are who we have been made to be and what we have been made to be. That is an affront to modern sensibilities, and we must make sure it's not an affront to ours. But more than that, we must do what we have been made to do. As the creation narrative unfolds, it becomes clear that this maleness and femaleness is not just a kind of geometrical difference. Oh, men are a bit like this and women are like that, but hey, it makes no difference to anything they do. Of course it doesn't. Of course it's not like that. It makes every bit of a huge amount of difference to what we do and how we live. Maleness and femaleness is to be expressed in how we live our lives. And of course, that's most obvious in marriage. Women have children, men don't have children. And Moreover, the differences that God has placed within us correlate with different responsibilities, particularly in marriage. You see that you see it in Genesis 2, when it is given to the man to take responsibility to name his wife Eve. And it is in Ephesians 5, Paul's mature reflection on the husband-wife relationship sets out all kinds of asymmetries and different responsibilities that men and women have in that particular relationship. And of course we're familiar with how that tends to track out into other relationships in life as well. But what this highlights is it's not just then who we are, it's what we do that must be shaped by the creative decree of God. But it goes even further than that. Not just what we are, and not just what we do, but even our desires are to be brought into submission to the Creator's will and God, the Creator's act of creating us. Much of the confusion in today's world about gender identity and sexual preference, if we use a term which is such a strange thing to talk about, but it's how people speak. But much of the confusion about that topic arises because people have run away with the idea once again that my desires are determinative, and moreover that they must be sovereign. This is just what I feel. This is just what I want. This is just, in the case of these issues, the kind of person that I'm attracted to. That's just how it is. And the Bible says that's just not how it is. The Bible insists that our desires, our feelings, our emotions, even our loves, must be brought into conformity with the way that God has made us. And this is the kind of thing which resonates very sharply against the prevailing spirit of the age. Somebody has remarked whimsically that if you want to be really dramatically countercultural in 21st century America, the thing to do is to, well, go to school, get a job, get married to somebody of the opposite sex, settle down, have kids, and just be normal. Because that has become so countercultural in today's world that it counts as standing against the flow. And it's really remarkable. It's indicative of how far we have drifted as a society. And as Christians, in one sense, the thing that we need to do first of all in relation to all the confusion and all the issues associated with that is simply to recognize this, to humble ourselves and take on board that our nature and the tasks we are called to fulfill in the world, and even the desires that we are called to cultivate, are given, not in the first instance chosen, but given to us by God. And if we will humbly submit to that, we may find ourselves more countercultural than we ever dreamed. The Lord bless you, and I hope very much to see you soon. Bye for now.